Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first Scorpio episode of AstroSoup. I've been trying different kinds of intros over the last few weeks and really came to the conclusion that I weren't sure that they were kind of fitting into what I wanted it to be, which is organic and freeform. Um, so I kind of threw that out the window, thought I might start with some little scorpionic story about myself. Um, and so the one that just popped into my head because I thought, what the heck am I going to talk about? Was 3 years ago, I fell on my face, and amongst many other things, I lost five upper teeth.
Mm.
And so, and of course, teeth are connected to all parts of your body. So now I wonder, so do the fake teeth have the same meaning as the real ones? I don't know. Anyway, so all the surgery and everything that I went through, because that's very scorpionic surgery, because you're transforming a part of your body, you hope for good reasons. And so, uh, I just wanted to describe what that process was like. It got to the point where, and I still feel this way, if I see a dental chair, I have to take a deep breath before I sit down in it. And it's not because I don't have a wonderful dentist, because I do. So this kind of speaks to the scorpionic energy, which is seeks transformation on some frequency. Now, sometimes the version of transformation happens to be bury things as much as you possibly can. That's kind of like a reverse transformation process. So when I went through that, I had a lot of choices I could make about what I could do with my mouth, and which and of course I chose the one that was actually transformative, that would leave me being able to still function in a healthy and happy way, because that's really what Scorpio energy is about, is transformation, taking you to a healthier place. It's an energy is intense. It's no holds barred. There's only two speeds, 0 and 180. So Scorpio doesn't know anything about gray. It only knows black and white. And my producer is wearing black and white just to demonstrate the principle for us all.
That's
Uh,
good.
so it doesn't know any middle ground,
Mm.
which is very interesting, because the process of transformation actually takes you from some deeper part of yourself through all of the multitude of possibilities before you reach the actual transformation. And so, what is part of that process is purging and releasing. And sometimes, because it is the opposite to Taurus, there can be a little bit of reluctance to let go. Now, all fixed signs have some difficulty letting go. And welcome to Cecilia.
Hi.
Um, so if you wouldn't mind, I can't help but say hi, but thank you, Cecilia. You read my mind, which is great. I could use more help in that department, actually. So we're just talking about the general qualities of Scorpio. And of course, we know it's a water sign. And my producer said I need more props. And so here's the symbol for Scorpio. Of course, it looks backwards to me, but uh, and this is just a practice run. Um, so I picked a darker blue for water. It's always interesting because I always consider air to be blue as well, which, yeah, isn't necessarily how everybody else sees it. So, interestingly enough, when you look at the symbol, it's got an arrow pointing upwards. So it's supposed to take you to some place. I don't even know how to frame it. And currently, it's not so much up as out. It's supposed to take you outside yourself eventually, but first you have to do the inner work. And and Scorpio has a great radar. Like, if you have any amount of Scorpio energy in your chart, or strong Pluto, I'm talking to people who know some astrology. But just let me say this: it's that energy that that, for heaven's sakes, my brain continues to go sideways. This is Pluto conjunct my Mercury, and I'm searching for the deeper meaning. So its intention is always to be focused on what's inside, and as a symbol points, and move it outward. It's intense. It doesn't, I always say Scorpio takes no prisoners. And that doesn't sound nearly as drastic as people would think. Do you have something you'd like to say, Andy?
I was gonna say, does it take him outside? But that was just, And then also I was gonna say, if you lose your train of thought during Scorpio, just do it deeply and epically.
How about empathically? Does that work?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, that level of intensity is often a bit overwhelming, even for the person who has it. Because it again, there's no in between. It's all or nothing. And so that makes it, and of course, depending on what other influences you have going on in your chart, you may be able to embrace that more deeply or not. But when the sun moves into Scorpio, that's what you got to do. You've got to do some internal housework. Acknowledge how deeply you feel about things. And it doesn't, and not be judgmental. It's like going down into the bowels of the earth almost, in a way. And notice I use the word bowels, which of course Pluto and Scorpio and Mars are very deeply connected to, which is all about the purging part. And in order to purge, you have to let go of the things that are decaying, actually, because Scorpio is very much connected to, as again, death is a form of transformation. And so it's not like currently outside, I'm resisting the Scorpio call to purge because I still have flowers blooming. And I live at latitude 53 north, so this is unusual as we head towards the end of October and Halloween that I still have, so I've managed to purge some of them, but the ones that are still blooming, including my very favorites, which are pansies, I just can't bring myself to pull them up yet. So a little bit of a digression there. So how do we work with this energy? Well, it's funny. I woke up this morning and I had these series of 4 phrases come into my head, which is get down, get dirty, get free, get passionate. Because for me, Scorpio is all about passion of a deeper variety. It's the kind of energy that calls you to do things that don't maybe make any sense to you in the moment, because Scorpio is not about what's logical. Though I do know one Scorpio who insists on saying he's the most logical person in our family, and he has more plants and water than anybody. So, so so the get down really means get down to business, like in the sense of don't resist whatever call there is to go inside and internally. Get dirty. Well, if you think Pluto rules mining, and what happens in mining, you go down, you separate all the stuff that is undesirable, as it were. That's the only word that comes to me right now, to find that nugget of gold. I mean, the Scorpio is very much connected to alchemy. And so when we talk about alchemy, it's not necessarily, when we're talking about you as a human being, it's not a physical thing. It's a spiritual, emotional thing. Where does your internal gold lie? So, and then we get to get free. So as you release things and purge things that are actually decaying in some way, shape, or form in your world, and you're going to come in contact with thoughts, ideas, experiences that still have a hold on you on a deeper frequency. And it's not so much that you can change your life experiences. You can't erase them. They're always going to be there because they form a part of who you are. But how do you release or relinquish the parts of it that in some ways even can sometimes make you feel really burdened and almost dead in some way, which may sound a bit extreme, but Scorpio is does kind of lean toward extremes. Um, and so as you get free and you have more space internally, then you have more space for the things that might really fill you up. That's where the get passionate part comes in, because it doesn't matter what you feel passionate about as long as you feel passionate about it. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense to other people. Okay. So now I just want to give you some general idea about how Scorpio functions before we start talking about Scorpio 2025. Now, the sun is not alone in the sign of Scorpio at this point in time. Currently, the moon is there, Mercury is there, and Mars is there. So these are the planets that are most connected to our daily personal functioning, our personal being. And so there's a lot of intensity right now, and it may feel might feel a little weighed down by it. Because sometimes if you have so much intensity, but you have no sense of direction about what you're supposed to do with it, the only thing you can really do is just sit with it and notice what your response is. Because Scorpio again doesn't waffle around about, well, maybe I like this and maybe I don't. They're more like, if I don't like you, I don't like you. See ya. Scorpio energy is very much okay when I'm done, and they they can get really fascinated by things. So there's a lot of intensity around right now around what should I focus all my energy on, and it can feel like I just want to say it's like the dryer and the heat and the moisture all in the dryer and trying to dry out the moisture, which is what Mars would like to do, is to dry out all that feeling, all that sensitivity, because it's the gung ho, let's get it done part. It's the part connected to the usual image that we use, which is the phoenix rising from the ashes, which is a very fire image. But for me, the other image that goes with Scorpio is the swamp. And the truth is we all have an internal swamp. We all have things that we've stored emotionally that it was not time to process. And so whenever we get to a really powerful place with a Scorpio, plus, its ruler, one of its rulers, Pluto, has just been in Aquarius for on and off for a little over a year. And so it's or closing in on 2 years, pardon me. So there's the air function. So right now it can, again, we're back in that, the dryer and everything is rolling around. And what am I supposed to do with all of this? Well, sometimes all you got to do is breathe, because the solution, Scorpio is a very intuition driven person, gut instinct kind of person. So when we get in that space and in every year when we get around to Scorpio, that's the part where we're really supposed to start paying attention to our gut instinct on a really deep and powerful level. So now, as we're feeling all of this, Venus is sitting in the sign of Libra going, this is a bit much for me. And yet it's going to propel you to want to talk to people about it, because Scorpio isn't always interested in sharing all of its deeper, that Scorpio energy sharing all of its deeper feelings, but because it resists its vulnerability. And yet the message of Scorpio is get in touch with your vulnerability. It will make you stronger than you ever thought possible. So, and again, we started this trip through sun sign with the sun in a somewhat challenging relationship with the outer planets, calling upon constant adjustment, adaptation, again, transmutation, the whole notion of like get it together, which is not always easy to do when it feels like all the parts aren't really talking to each other. So that concentration in Scorpio is designed to help you navigate that, to bypass all of the part to let's get down to business.
Is that the Sun in Pluto in Scorpio square Pluto in Aquarius?
Yes, and then the sun quincunx Neptune and quincunx Uranus.
Hmm.
So it's
Interesting.
playing with all the outer planets right now.
Hmm.
Not, I mean, we can throw Saturn in there too. So it's like we can feel like our realities are about to shift in a way that we don't have any control over, and that's probably not an inaccurate assessment.
Hmm.
The key becomes, can you draw on your inner strength and navigate reality as it unfolds? And of course, we've got 7 planets and water signs to top it all off. So, it can, again, you can feel inundated and not always sure what you're inundated by. Is it feelings, emotions? Is it your thoughts? Is it life in general? Yesterday was a very good idea, good example in my world as the sun moved into Scorpio. First of all, I was having my house cleaned, purging, and I get a call saying that the power's out in my house. And then I get a message from my hairstylist telling me the hot water tank at the salon is not working. She said, so you can either reschedule or I can't guarantee you'll have any warm water at all. So of course I thought I didn't want to add anything else to my plate. So I decided cold water was better than me having to do my hair again, myself anyway. Um, so I get there, and of course, there's no hot water, not even warm water. And honestly, I thought the water was so cold, I thought that icicles were going to spring off the top of my head. So to me, that really symbolizes that the sun, quincunx those 2 planets and square Pluto, because Pluto is cold. I mean, we know physically the planet itself is cold, and Mars is hot, which kind of describes how it is. Pluto can be both hot and cold all at the same time. So expect that you might have a little bit of that going on. It's just those, 1 minute something seems like a really good idea and you're really hot on it. And then the next minute it's like, I don't know what I was thinking. So because the Mars and the Pluto energies are quite different. And they're both involved with Scorpio. So what's coming up in the next week? Well, the next week, because we're waiting around, it's going to feel like we're waiting around or sinking in all that water energy. Well, I probably will feel like that because I have too many planets in air. But the only major shift in the next week is Mercury moving into Sagittarius, which will break up some of that tension. Because Mercury in Scorpio can really get the bit between its teeth and cannot let go of anything and gets paralyzed by the constant overstimulation of an intensity of, because Mercury likes to solve problems in conjunction with Saturn, but solutions to problems generally begin with your brain circling things. Okay, so just before we go, I just wanted to, so here's Scorpio. And so this will show you color-wise what I mean. This is Mars, and this is Pluto.
Whoa.
So if you look at this, this is very cold. You can see hot and cold. And then you bring along Mercury, which just likes to generally play with ideas, but can in Scorpio get stuck, especially if it's sitting anywhere Well, right now it's sitting near Mars, just went over Mars, and so um, it may have gotten itself into trouble. Because Mercury by nature is fairly neutral. It takes on whatever qualities of the planets and the signs it's hanging around in. Anyway, okay.
Great visuals.
You're only saying that because you
No,
wanted me to.
it's really nice to see the visuals. It's very helpful.
It is. Um, so now generally every week we do a color card, and this is the part where we do the color card. And this is always fun because these cards, as you can see, are twice as big as my hand. I had to work really hard to find cards that I could actually put the symbols on that weren't the size of Mount Everest. And I am prone to exaggeration. So two fell out. Oh, nice. Oh, this is really nice for what's coming up. Gold, which is attract abundance. Now, I just want to say abundance comes in many different forms, not just because it's gold, we think of it when it comes to money. But if you're seeking abundance in any way, shape, or form, this is a color that you visualize, or you find an example of it that you can see outwardly. And the other one is, oh my God, I can't believe it. And here we have silver. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
And this is be persistent. So the combination, this is like the sun and the moon. Sun is gold and the moon is silver.
Wow, that
So
is cool.
it's time to bring those two energies together. And besides, the moon is always busy translating whatever it is the sun desires. So I'm not going to interpret these much more than this because I think it's important that each and every person who watches this podcast, responds to the symbols in a way that works for them, because these things might mean completely different things to you. So there is no right and wrong. It reminds me of a hairstylist I once had who was highly intuitive. In fact, his grandparents started a spiritualist church in Great Britain, and he started working with tarot cards. And he said that I'm confused. I said, why? He said, because my interpretation of the cards is not as what's in the book. I said, but your interpretation is the one that matters. Because often, we get stuck because we think that what we've perceived is wrong, and then we get in our own way. And then this one I picked ahead. It's from this beautiful deck of cards.
Wow.
Called the Oracle of Gaia's Forest. And the interesting, this is so beautiful. Look at this.
Wow.
It's the owl, and it says prudence. And I'm just going to read what it said because it's so applicable to Scorpio. The owl is renowned for its night vision, symbolizing the ability to perceive what is hidden, to unveil secrets, and to bring light into the darkness, which is really at the root of it all Scorpio's purpose, even though it doesn't always know that. Would you agree, Andy?
I like that purpose. I'm sure it has many purposes, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely dealing with darkness is one of the Scorpio strong suits.
Well, and in recognizing that darkness does exist, and that any deep dive you do into yourself, it's not all going to be sunshine and lollipops when you get there.
Yeah, and it also makes me think of that darkness is a form of light. Like Scorpio, if they Gothic Scorpios wear a lot of black, that is a form of light.
I know, because I generally wear a lot of black myself. I can't remember the name of the person. I think it was Barbara Coloroso who talked about black being the color of transformation. And it's funny because I never started wearing black until I was 40 years old. And that's when I began, I think, my deepest dive into transforming my life. And just for those of you who are unaware, because we go through Scorpio every year, there's always a call to transformation. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's how you get to apply the principles of transformation in your life in whatever way works for you. So now we're going to talk a little bit about lunar rhythms, and so which is looking at where the moon is at and what it's currently doing. So we've already had the new moon, which I talked about in the last episode of what's the name? AstroSoup.
Mm.
And now we're moving towards the first quarter energy. And one of the things I noticed is that for lunar rhythms throughout our trip through Scorpio, all of the quarters are in fixed signs. And to some degree, that really is helpful in anchoring some of the overwhelming amount of water energy that we have to deal with. And it helps you feel anchored because it's fixed. And so it also helps you to take whatever experiences you're having and actually ground them somewhere in your consciousness, which sounds a little bit like that's not possible because it's not a physical grounding as much as it's a just a welcoming of. It's not always easy to describe what happens when things are in water signs because you can't measure it. It's like I always say, if you're going through a transformation of any kind, you're not really going to know how much if you've shifted that energy and left behind unhealthy patterns until you find that you respond to stimulus in different ways than you used to. That's the only way you really know it. When I was in my 40s, I was diagnosed with PTSD. And people often ask me, well, what did you do to bring about that, coming back into a healthy place? And I said, damned if I can tell you. I know what my intentions were, and that's where intentions are important. But could I give you a 10-step process? No, and that's partly because we're all different people. And this is where astrology really comes in and it's helpful to you. So taking the time to have a session with a professional astrologer, even if you are an astrologer yourself, is always a wise idea. Because you can't always, no matter how much you want to see stuff, you don't always see yourself clearly. And I don't know that that's necessarily what life is always supposed to be about, seeing yourself clearly. I think it's about being yourself that's more important. So now, geez, I keep confusing myself. Okay, I think I took that. Oh no, I guess I'm supposed to do that. I have my own production sheet, and it's like, so I just wanted to pick a color card to go with working with the moon for the next week, because it's going to be moving through the signs. Finish Scorpio, move through Sag, Capricorn, and then to Aquarius. And so those are very different kinds of energy. So we're moving from water to fire to earth to air. And so during this process, all the things you're going to be doing, because we're going through the new moon phase, which is, kind of gestating something, moving on to the crescent moon, which is looking at anything that might be holding you back, old patterns, old habits, as the light increases and you can see more. And then we get to the first quarter, which is where you actually initiate action. So during this process of getting there, so the first quarter happens in Aquarius, and so you're going to see a change that occurs that you maybe not anticipating, because of course the moon is also not always communicating what's happening on deeper levels, especially when the sun is in Scorpio. So we're just going to get a nice, happy little card, color card to work with it. Oh, this is interesting. So this card is Pearl, and it says, strengthen your connection with the divine.
Hmm.
Because I often think that, really that's what And you can define that however you wish. I often think that working with Scorpio energy can be about connecting yourself to your own sense of divinity. And I know, and I don't mean that in a religious sense. Understanding that you are, a heart and a soul and a beacon of light, if you choose to be, is really important. And I think that's what that card means. And if for you, it means connecting to God, Goddess, God, the source, however it is you define your connection to, I don't even know if there are the right words in any language on earth, because of course we can only interpret things through a human consciousness, which is, and no disrespect to human consciousness, it's just that we come onto a planet that operates on duality. And so it's not always easy to find your way through what appear to be opposing ideas or thoughts, feelings, opposing energies to the core, because that's where our connection is to whatever whatever the source of all of this is. I mean, all you have to do is look at all the images of space that we never had before, and the raw beauty and intelligence and whatever else you could feel when you connect to those photos tells you there is something beyond our human comprehension. And that always just makes me like light up like a Christmas tree. So anyway, so now we're going to talk. Now every month I do a segment I call AstroBites, which is essentially a word that I give a happy little word to every happy sign, a word, and I wanted to explain a little bit more about how to use it. Because sometimes I think that all I need to say is it's a talisman, it's this, it's that gives people a clue as to how to use it, and it may or may not. So when I share these words, and you can pick other words, it doesn't have to be just the one that belongs to your sun sign. If another one jumps out at you, you can hold on to that too. Um, so yikes. And I want to say if any of you out there would like to subscribe to my newsletter, where and I'll have it on Facebook too. I always post whatever the astrobites are for each sun sign on Facebook. Or if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can reach me at AstroSoup8@gmail.com. Anyway, so what do you do with these words? Well, we always forget that words actually have energy. And it runs counter to that old adage that sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. It's just not true. It's simply not true. Because
They say
anything
words can start a fire.
words can start. Okay, would you like to explain that?
Well, biblically they say like words can start a fire. Like it's words are not a nothing thing. They're very important because you can start a whole,
You start
problem.
a war, you can start a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, and so understanding that words have energy, I have to say that the words that I share are like an intuitive download. I just kind of ask what the word should be, and then it pops into my head, and sometimes I go, "Are you sure?" Um, so the most important thing is to first note how you respond to that word. If you don't like it, there's a reason why you don't like it. If it really speaks to you, then obviously there's a reason why it speaks to you. It doesn't matter what your response is, but you do need often to really just settle in and see where that word lands in your body as well, because that might be telling you something else. Because the universe, whatever you want to call, is an infinite place, an infinite being, if you want. And so it's always communicating with you in one form or another. It doesn't matter whether it's a thought that pops into your head out of the blue, or, falling on your face, which is the universe was communicating with me when I fell on my face. Uh, and at first I didn't like what I thought it was communicating. So again, sit with the word, see how you feel. What part of your body do you feel it in? Do you resist it? Do you like it? And then you can just sit with it. And you can play with it, you can dance with it, you can do whatever you like with it. But the word itself has a resonance that is meant to help you shift something or change something or do something. You're the person that gets to decide exactly what it means to you and how you want to work with it. So let's begin. So the word for Aries is purge. And the word for Taurus is reflect. The word for Gemini is consider. And I have to tell you, when I came up with that, part of my brain said, well, aren't they the same things? I said, no, they're not. They do mean different things. Reflection is just taking time. It's not with any intent, it's just taking time. Whereas consider means maybe you have some decisions to make. Maybe there are things in your life that you need to really think about. Because Gemini can like to hop from thing to thing, hoping that nothing sticks. No disrespect intended to Geminis.
I'm crying.
Huh?
I'm crying right now.
Why?
So I'm a Gemini rising.
Well, what?
I'm just kidding.
Yes, well, you're busy considering a lot all the time anyway. Well,
That's true.
I think this is a word that probably makes you quite happy. The word for Cancer is nourish, which seems obvious, but Cancers are not always good at nourishing themselves. So these words are meant to be about the individual, not necessarily about your external reality, although it's up to you to decide whether that's true or not. For Leo, it's sustain. For Virgo, it's break free. For Scorpio, it's tune in, which of course reminds me of that hippie phrase, tune in, turn on, and drop. But that's not what I mean. Because Scorpios are very good at tuning into other people's reality, their hidden parts, their knowing that there's a secret of some kind, but they're not always necessarily that good at doing it with themselves. Sagittarius, this will probably bother a bunch of Sagittarius, is it was sit still, with the emphasis on still. Capricorn is delve. Did I forget Libra? Oh, I did. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you so much. Okay, I just jumped right over it, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have Libra energy and I didn't want to read it. The word for Libra is relinquish. So did you like that word any better than the other one?
I like relinquish.
Okay. So for Capricorn, it was developed. For Aquarius, it was remove. So of course, I'm busy. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm going, what does that mean? What does that mean? And for Pisces, it's advance, interestingly enough. So I don't know if I have any closing words to say about Scorpio. Is there anything you would like to share, Andy?
Are there 4 planets in Scorpio right now?
Yeah. Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury.
That is a lot of Scorpio energy right now. I mean, so I guess, and then the sun is square Pluto, which is also very intense. So, it's a remarkably scorpionic moment in our lives. So, yeah, that's all.
Well, and people and just you're going. We're all going to feel intense in waves because it is water, and of course the fact that Mercury is about to move into Sagittarius by next Wednesday will alleviate some of the tension.
Mhm.
Um, because Mercury and Sag can really go, well, I don't really give a shit.
Mhm.
uh, However, shortly after that, and I'll be talking about that in episode 2 of Scorpio, we'll be talking about what happens after Mercury moves into Sag and then Venus moves into Scorpio.
Wow.
So throughout most of the period of the next 30 days of Scorpio, or well, we're actually at 29 now, we're going to have 4 planets in Scorpio.
Hmm. I have to say Scorpio's been a rather inert place for a long time. I mean, Jupiter went through Scorpio maybe 6 to 8 years ago during the Me Too years, and then there hasn't really been a hand of the clock going through Scorpio. Uranus has been over in Taurus, and so it's really kind of nice to have a little Scorpio energy.
Yeah. Well, it's just going to come as a shock to some people's systems, that's all, because it can take you into overwhelm really easily.
Hmm.
Um, Especially if you've been living in your head all the time. Or, I mean, I'm not allowed to do that, even though I'd like to. Just a personal reference to my own chart. But when Pluto was in Capricorn, Saturn was its boss. Right? And so, and now it's moved into an air sign, and it's also squaring the sign that it's connected to. So that's going to bring, what you were talking about, that energy is behind us now. There's not going to be so much navigating external realities, since Pluto was in Capricorn. It's going to take us more into more internal realities. And I do think that integrity is going to continue to be a big issue for Scorpio, for Pluto and Aquarius, which in some ways is calling on the Scorpio energy, or all Scorpios, to kind of lead the way along with Aquarius, which is very interesting. I remember when I was first studying astrology, um, there was some suggestion that Uranus in Scorpio was exalted, which I don't think it was based on anything. Um, so when we think about the outer planets and what they're up to lately, all moving into new signs. Um, Again, there's a lot of upheaval, just energetically, and being able to um, navigate it is there's a lot of promise and a lot of because I really think 0 degrees is not unlike the Fool card in the tarot deck.
Mm.
Having all those planets at 0 degrees, including Saturn, it's going. It's been a year of like this all the time. And right now, actually, in some ways, if you're willing to take the Scorpio invitation, you can actually calm your system and do a little bit of retreat from the external world. Because sometimes we forget that we are built to be able to reflect, to take time for ourselves instead of always being engaged in um, all the external activities that we have. And of course, we live in a time now where there's constant bombardment of information. I think it's going to be interesting to see as Pluto goes through Aquarius exactly whether there's going to be any shifts or changes in that. But that's another topic for a different day. Um, so I usually, it's so funny because like when I first created all the ideas behind this podcast, my final segment I named Wrap It Up, and then I decided to change it to What's Up, which is that doesn't make any sense. And then I looked at my notes. So today, this is really perfect. I invited people to send me a quote that I could use on the show, in which everybody who contributes a favorite quote or a quote or what that they really or something they really like, I will acknowledge them for their contribution because this will not proceed forward without support and people participating, which is my intent over the long haul. Once I get through all of the waves I've created in my process of doing this and the learning that I've been going through. So this one,
Where do we send the quotes?
oh, well, you can send them. You can post it to my Facebook page if you like. So it's Leslie, Lesley, Francis, Francis. You could send it to AstroSoup8@gmail.com, which is the email I created specifically for stuff related to the podcast. So thank you for asking.
Will you put that info in the verbiage of the video?
And the who, where, and the what?
Like when you post the podcast, will you put it in the writing part so people know where to send them?
Oh, yeah, okay. You said verbiage. You think I didn't understand what that word meant? Okay, so this quote was submitted or shared with me by Lillian Gusto, and it's a quote from Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland movie, written by Alice Wolverton, because we like to acknowledge who actually said it. So it's the Mad Hatter in the Alice in Wonderland movie. You're mad, bonkers, completely off your head, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are.
Oh.
So please take that to heart. And because if you think you're going crazy, it's okay. It's really okay. And Andy and I welcome more crazy people.
We'll have to
Anyway,
let him get crazy on the episode.
what?
We'll have to let him get crazy on the episode. Cecilia's being very well behaved because we asked her to.
Cecilia, is there anything you'd like to say before I say goodbye? Nope.
No, I can't think of anything.
Isn't
Thank
that
you very
terrible?
much.
Oh, isn't it terrible? Because if somebody point blank asked me if there was something I would like to say, I might pause for about 5 minutes. It's different when you decide to volunteer as when somebody pigeonholes you. So, I hope you didn't mind that I pigeonholed you, Cecilia. So, okay, I guess that's all she wrote, sort of. And so until the next time, be true to yourself. Oh, geez.